Hi, this is Dr. Darren Schmidt at the Nutritional Healing Center of Ann Arbor. So I'm going to go over longevity and body size and what kind of diet would be best for living a long time and living healthfully. So the first thing I want to go over, I got 4 studies right here, but the first one says how height is related to our health and longevity. It's a review. So it says shorter, smaller bodies have numerous advantages in terms of health and longevity. Shorter people are less likely to suffer from age-related chronic diseases and more likely to reach advanced ages. And it's got a bunch of reasons why. Lower insulin is one of them. The next one to go over is about body weight, longevity, mortality, and body weight. And it says, findings show absolute body size is negatively related to longevity and life expectancy and positively to mortality. So that means bone size, muscle, and fat. The more you have, the shorter your lifespan is. And the next one is height, body size, and longevity. Now they're talking about both combined. How tall are you? How short are you? How big your body is? Bigger people die sooner and they have more chronic disease. That's just the way it is. So when you have a person saying you have to have a plant-based diet, what happens is your body gets smaller. And so you don't have to do a plant-based diet to have a smaller body. You can do 1 meal a day eating, like fasting, intermittent fasting. You can have protein and fat and more calories and still have lower insulin and a longer life. And I'm going to show that to you here in a second. But let's go over this. This is a website related to secrets to a longer, healthy life. In Loma Linda, USA, California, there are Seventh-day Adventists, and they live to be quite old, and they have healthy lifestyle choices. And it says 35% are vegetarian, so 65% are not vegetarian, and around 1/2 are eating meat only rarely. So the other half are eating meat more frequently. And so when you look at vegan YouTubers and leaders, they'll say, this is why they live a long time. Well, they have other factors that we can't ignore. Tobacco and alcohol consumption are discouraged, as are rich or spicy foods, coffee, caffeinated fizzy drinks, and unclean foods such as pork and shellfish. Pork lives in mud, and shellfish eat the garbage that falls to the bottom of the ocean. That's why they're unclean. And then down here it says they also believe in having plenty of regular exercise, helping others, maintaining strong social and family ties, worshiping God, and observing the Sabbath. They are blessed with a mild climate with warm summers and cool winters. There are multiple factors why they live to be longer, and that's the essence of an epidemiological study. You can't find cause when you observe groups of people and you study epidemiology. Epidemiology is the study of epidemics. So here's something interesting here. Hong Kong now has the highest life expectancy in the world, and this was published in 2017. They found that each Hong Konger ate 1.5 pounds of meat per day, meaning the average daily consumption was 4 times higher than in Britain, and it's the highest in the world. So this kind of blows everything away that we thought we knew. So here we have Hong Kong at 83.74 years old, and let's see what they eat. Average daily total meat products, including livestock and seafood, consumed percentage of total food intake by weight per person per day, 32% in Hong Kong, world's highest. The United States is only at 14%. So we're less than half of what they eat per total calories per day, and yet the vegans keep saying we need to eat less and less meat. But it seems like by these data, you can eat more meat and live longer. And why is that? Because they end up eating less grains, less plants. Average daily total meat products, grams per person, 695 grams, that's a pound and a half. And the United States is 40% less than that. And they live longer than us. So here we have pork consumption, calories per person per day, 394 calories per Hong Konger versus the world average at 120. Here it says Hong Kong people eat almost 40% more meat than Americans. Often they eat meat such as Chinese barbecue pork, pork belly, pig feet. All these are high in fat. So the carnivore diet is actually high fat. It's 70% fat. You eat fat to satiety, and then you eat meat, not a little meat, but you start off with the fat. So this is something I just recently learned from another YouTuber, that the carnivore diet is not a protein diet. It should be a high-fat diet. It's keto. If you're eating carnivore, you got to make sure your fat and protein ratios are right, so you're in ketosis. Now, I believe I ate too much protein for 16 years, from 2000 to 2016, and I had my lipoprotein A tested, which is a very bad marker for cardiovascular disease, and mine was 131. It's supposed to be less than 75 on the lab test that I ran. Getting into ketosis lowered that down to 89 over the course of a year and a half. And so I love protein. Red meat is my favorite food. And I ate a low carb diet the whole 17 years since the year 2000. Low carb meaning less than 75 grams a day, most days, the majority of the days. And if I cheated, I would go up to 100 grams of carbs in that day. Rarely did I go to 200 or something, splurging on a fruit or, ice cream or something. That was super rare. So my low carb diet was too high in protein. And these people from Hong Kong are eating a very high fat diet. And it's a very high meat diet. Up until 1970s, Hong Kong people had shorter life expectancy and poorer health index than Americans, and they ate less red meat. Year by year, dietary statistics show as they ate more red meat, they had longer life expectancy and better health index, and Americans eat lesser red meat, the lower life expectancy, the slower increase in life expectancy, and their health index gets worse. Now, I mentioned before in Okinawa they had some trouble with getting food during World War II and afterwards. It says here, as Okinawa increased eating pork from the 1950s to the 90s, they had longer increase in life expectancy. But as they slowed down their pork consumption, they also slowed down their life expectancy increase. Okay, so they were getting a longer life expectancy, but at a slower rate. So these are other epidemiological observations related to health and life expectancy and meat consumption. Now, why is it that these people could be eating the meat and then having a greater increase in life expectancy? Is because they're probably eating less food. So let's talk about that. It comes down to this: fasting mimicking diet, intermittent fasting, eating less often, and that extends life as seen in animal models and seen physiologically in studies led by Dr. Valter Longo, and he wrote this book. Now, in this book, he talks about the longevity diet being eating mostly vegan and then adding some fish a few times a week. And but that's another option, whereas that's an everyday diet. It's calorie restricted. Now, he also talks about skipping food for 3 days. That's calorie restriction. And you can go either way. Now, the intermittent fasting is wildly popular because you have to eat a lot of fat. And I believe that our bodies were designed to live off of fat. And what we've been doing for 30, 40 years now is trying to eat low fat, low calorie, because the USDA food pyramid says to. And we end up eating a lot of carbohydrates and grains, et cetera, et cetera. And clinically, I just find that people do better when they're eating what our bodies are designed to eat. That's fat and protein. And then we just reduce the number of times that we eat. And the average American is eating 14 to 22 times a day. Bring that down to 2 a day. And they have to be really good meals that are very satisfying and healthy. So when you look at these Blue Zone books, I actually have 2 of them. He doesn't talk about fasting. He doesn't talk about ketosis. He talks about eating plants. And so I think that there's all these studies showing that people who eat a lot of plants, they live longer. And yeah, they eat animals, but they don't eat that many animals. Well, the truth is, I think why they live longer is because they eat less often and they're calorie restricted. And they have small bodies. That's the biggest factor when you control for everything else. People who live to be 100 are a few inches shorter than people that live to be 80 in Okinawa. So if you're a retired football player and you've put on some weight, you gotta get smaller. That's your job, to reduce your chronic disease and to live longer. Your job is to get smaller. Your job during your career was to get bigger. All right, now if you're 50 years old and you're full of muscle and you're working out, I'm not against that at all, because your body's going to naturally get smaller anyways. So in the meantime, keep your cardiovascular markers under control, get your blood tested, know exactly what you're doing to reverse chronic disease. And intermittent fasting, ketosis is the most important thing you can do. And cycling ketosis is also extremely important. So when I talk to patients about long-term health, people aren't saying, I want to live to be 120. Nobody ever says that. I imagine somebody at 120, they're small, they're blind, they don't take care of themselves, somebody else has to take care of them. And the body's just ready. It's just too old. And but people want to live to be, seeing their grandkids and picking up their grandkids and seeing their grandkids graduate from high school. And but at some point, who wants to really live to be 120? What we want to do is live to be healthy until we die. So I've never worked in a hospice, but I've heard a few stories where people, one day they wake up and something's not right. And then 3 days later, they're dead. Dr. Otto Warburg, one of my heroes, he woke up one morning, his leg hurt. It was really bad pain. 7 days later, he was dead. And he was all about having a healthy life. He had gardens and organic produce, and he ate really well. I mean, he's the guy that figured out how cells metabolize and respire. So you got 5 days or so to say goodbye to people. I had a next door neighbor. He was older. One morning he woke up, something wasn't right. He called an ambulance. He said, no lights, no sirens, just pick me up, take me away. 3 days later, he was dead. He knew something wasn't right. So as opposed to 12 years of suffering and medications and side effects and more medications and discomfort and pain, you want to be healthy until you're gone. And then what? Well, if you believe in reincarnation, you come back and do it all over again. Or that's it. Either way, it's your belief. And that's life. Okay, to wrap this up, let me summarize. The point here is that if you want to live a long time, you want to do calorie restriction by intermittent fasting. You can do that with meat as the basis of your diet. You don't have to do a whole foods plant-based diet. I showed you how in Hong Kong they're the longest lived, and they eat more meat than anybody else in the whole world. So there's a lot of misinformation on healthcare research and YouTube, and I'm trying to set all this straight. So don't be afraid of meat. And if you look into the people really promoting the carnivore diet, I've been eating a lot more meat personally in the last 7 days. Red meat is my favorite food. It always has been. I would eat it 3 or 4 times a week, and now I'm eating it twice a day, and more. Absolutely loving it, feeling so much stronger. And anyways, it's just another learning point. And some people can't have red meat. I understand it. It hurts your stomach. It makes you feel bloated. It makes you feel heavy and tired. I get it. But there are people that need red meat. It's the red part. It's the myoglobin. That's the red part. That's way different than white meat. So it helps your blood carry more oxygen. So anyways, just a lot of thoughts here. These are my thoughts. I'm sharing them with you right now. And if you like this information, please give me a thumbs up. I know I probably forgot something, but I try to give you as much information as I can. If you like this information, please give me a thumbs up, share and subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications. I appreciate your comments and your questions, and take care.